September 1st, 1974. Japan's most advanced ship, the nation's nuclear-powered Hope, was meant to sail into history, not controversy. But just hours into its sea trials, a radiation alarm shattered the dream. The flaw was so small, no one saw it coming. The fallout was far bigger than technology alone. Why was a ship built for the future left stranded at sea? The answer starts with a promise no one could keep. In the late 1960s, Japan set its sights on a new kind of national symbol. The world's first nuclear-powered merchant ship, the American NS Savannah, had already sailed. Germany's Otto Hahn followed soon after. But Japan wanted more than to match these feats. It wanted to surpass them, proving that the country could master the peaceful atom and lead a new era of ocean commerce. The plan was ambitious. Build an 8,000-ton cargo vessel, outfit it with a homegrown nuclear reactor, and send it around the globe as a showcase of Japanese engineering. The ship was named Mutsu, after a province in the north. Its hull stretched 130 meters. Its reactor promised 36 megawatts of thermal power, and its mission was as much about national pride as about science. In boardrooms and government offices, the project was described as a leap into the future. Nuclear power, once the domain of warships and submarines, would now be harnessed for trade and research. Mutsu was designed not just to carry cargo, but to validate Japan's reactor technology at sea, proving that nuclear propulsion could be safe, efficient, and reliable, even in the unpredictable environment of the open ocean. Every detail was meant to inspire confidence. The hull was constructed by Ishikawajima Harima Heavy Industries, one of Japan's most respected shipbuilders. The reactor, built by Mitsubishi, was a pressurized water type, compact, efficient, and modeled on proven designs. The Japan Atomic Energy Research Institute oversaw the project, determined to show the world that Japan could control and advance nuclear technology for peaceful purposes. And the timing mattered. The late 1960s and early 1970s were an era of optimism about atomic energy. Oil prices were rising, and the dream of energy independence was a powerful motivator. A nuclear-powered ship gliding into foreign ports under the Japanese flag would be a statement. Japan was back on the world stage, not as a follower, but as a leader. The stakes were enormous, but the real test was yet to come. On August 28, 1974, Mutsu slipped away from Ominato, heading out into the Pacific for its first real test. The ship's heart, a 36-megawatt pressurized water reactor, had never powered a Japanese vessel at sea before. Engineers and crew gathered in the control room, tracking dials and sensors as the reactor approached criticality. Everything ran by the book. Numbers matched predictions. The hull vibrated with the low hum of new technology coming alive. But as the reactor reached just 1.4% of its intended power, alarms sounded. Radiation monitors picked up something outside the reactor's thick steel and concrete shielding. The readings were unmistakable, a trickle of neutrons and gamma rays escaping through a narrow path. Not a dramatic breach, not a cloud of radioactive steam, just invisible particles, finding a shortcut through a gap in the shielding ring. The dose was trivial, barely more than the glow from an old television set. But in the world of nuclear engineering, even a minor anomaly is enough to halt everything. The captain ordered the reactor shut down. The crew scrambled to check sensors and review calculations. In the control room, the chief reactor officer traced the numbers, searching for a missed detail. The flaw was clear. A geometric pathway overlooked in the original design allowed neutron streaming to bypass layers of protection. Westinghouse had warned about such a possibility years before, but the warning had not made it into the final blueprints. Now the flaw was real, and the ship's reputation, carefully built over years, hung in the balance. Within hours, word reached the Japan Atomic Energy Research Institute and government officials in Tokyo. The press latched onto a single phrase: radiation leak. Headlines spread faster than the technical explanations. What had started as a moment of triumph for Japanese engineering now felt like the edge of a crisis. And the worst part was, the real danger was not in the numbers. It was in the story that would follow. Ominato's harbor had always been a place of routine. Fishing boats heading out before sunrise, families mending nets, the steady rhythm of a coastal town. But after the Mutsu's reactor alarm sounded, everything changed. The word leak echoed through the region, carried by headlines and whispered in fish markets. For the fishermen, it wasn't a technical debate. It was about trust. Trust that their catch was safe, that their children could swim in the bay, that outsiders would keep buying what the sea provided. Kenji Sato, a local cooperative leader, put it plain: if people think our water is tainted, we lose everything. Not just this season, forever. The fear wasn't about numbers on a Geiger counter. It was about livelihoods, reputations, and the fragile link between sea and shore. Sato and his neighbors blocked the harbor, tying their boats in a chain across the entrance. For more than 50 days, the Mutsu drifted offshore, denied a homecoming by the very people it was supposed to inspire. Supplies came by tender, small boats, making cautious runs with food and fuel. Crew members rotated in and out, but the ship itself became a pariah, visible from the breakwater, yet completely isolated. Negotiations dragged on. Officials from Tokyo promised explanations and reassurances, but the fishermen refused to budge. They demanded a guarantee. The ship would never return unless its reactor was fixed, and even then, not to their port. National pride and engineering ambition had run into a wall of local veto power. The Mutsu's fate was no longer in the hands of scientists or bureaucrats. It was being decided by the people who lived on the water, who knew what a rumor could do to a catch, and who understood that some stains once made never wash away. The repairs began with a promise of swift resolution, but the reality was a marathon. Engineers and contractors converged on the Mutsu, stripping back the flawed shielding and rebuilding it layer by layer. Polyethylene, zirconium hydride, and dense concrete were packed around the reactor, each material chosen for its ability to swallow stray neutrons and block gamma rays. Designs were reviewed, calculations checked, and every step scrutinized by regulators who understood that a second mistake would be fatal, not just for the ship, but for the entire idea of nuclear commerce in Japan. The cost of this caution was staggering. Over the next 7 years, the project consumed 120 billion yen. The Mutsu was towed from port to port, finally settling at Sasebo for the bulk of the retrofit. Each modification required new rounds of negotiation with local officials, who demanded ironclad guarantees before allowing work to continue. Minister Ichiro Hara became the face of these talks, traveling between Tokyo and the north, arguing for more funds and pleading for a new home port that would accept the ship once repairs were complete. The technical fixes were difficult, but persuading communities to trust the ship again proved nearly impossible. By 1991, the work was finally done. The Mutsu's reactor passed every test, and the ship completed an 82,000-kilometer trial, enough to circle the globe twice. The reactor performed as designed. The shielding flaw was gone, but the world had changed. No major Japanese port would accept a nuclear-powered cargo ship. The country's energy needs had shifted, and the economic case for nuclear shipping had evaporated. Mutsu's technical triumph came too late. The ship had proven what was possible, but the market no longer cared. It was a victory measured in paperwork and distance sailed, not in cargo delivered or ports visited. And that's when the engineers realized they had built a ship for a future that would never arrive. Today, nearly all 60,000 commercial ships still run on fossil fuels, not nuclear power. The real barrier isn't engineering. It's trust, regulation, and public consent. Every new obvious solution faces the same test. Progress isn't just about technology. It's about who gets to decide what's safe enough.